day, Africa, and welcome to another episode of Agenda 2063. Today on Agenda 2063, if you remember, we started with discussions on the African Free Trade, Continental Free Trade Agreement, and today we will be continuing with that discussion. But today we'll be focusing on how the youth can take advantage of this new agreement so that we wouldn't always be lagging behind when it comes to continental initiatives. So with me today, I have young minds, innovators. I have critical thinkers here in the house. We're going to talk about the youth involvement in the AFCFTA Act. You stay with us. We'll go for a quick break. When we come, I will introduce my guest.
4 years ago, like most young people, I was clueless as to what I wanted to do and which institution would help me realize a great career. What better place to pursue this dream than Blue Crest College, with state-of-the-art lecture halls and experienced lecturers, as well as equipped computer labs. Blue Crest is indeed the right starting point. With certificate, diploma and degree programs in information technology, business administration, journalism, oil and gas, Blue Crest is the one-stop institute for everyone who is looking to have a great career. Enroll now. Visit www.bluecrest.edu.gh or call any of the numbers on the screen. Blue Crest College. Education for life.
Welcome back. This is Agenda 2063. I'll be your host for today, Kwaku Ankomah. Let me quickly get to my guest for today. So I'll start from my immediate left. I have Mark Saba. Mark Saba is a social innovator, a critical thinker. He mentioned that before we came onto the show, he was saying that he's interested in applying leadership and innovation to solving critical issues on the continent. Welcome to the show, Mark.
Thank you.
All right. So in the middle, we have Dorcas Portier. Dorcas Portier is also with the Youth Without Borders, and also Pan-African Youth Advocate, the Ghana rep, right? Yes, that is Dorcas Portier. We also have Julius Carl Fierve. Julius Carl Fierve is also with the Youth Without Borders. Welcome to the house, gentlemen and lady.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. So today on Agenda 2063, we are talking about the AFCFTA. Recently, we've passed the AFCFTA, and then Ghana is hosting the regional headquarters. And so we've had a lot of discussions around the AFCFTA, how it's going to benefit the continent. Actually, it's the biggest trade agreement, that has been signed in terms of participating countries. But now we are looking at how the youth of Africa can benefit from this particular agreement that has been signed. We don't want to be, always lagging behind. So, Mark, I'll start from you. What do you think are some of the means and ways that the youth can actually take advantage of this particular agreement?
Yeah, thank you very much. That's an interesting question. First of all, I'd like to begin by thanking you and my fellow panelists. I think this is it goes a long way to show that all of us, one way or the other, have a stake in the development of our continent, and we can sit down and have conversations of this sort. I think it behooves us over the long haul as young people on the African continent to begin to think about new ways. So I think this is a very, very important forum for discussions of the sort, so that we can cross-fertilize and share ideas about many of the challenges that our continent faces. Now, back to your question, I think this is a very, very monumental agreement by all standards, and as you mentioned earlier, probably the largest after the WTO. And when you grind that within the context of the African continent and what that means for about a 1.2 billion people and about 2 trillion in GDP, over the long haul, I think it has the potential to create a market for us so that we're not overly dependent on foreign markets, which historically has been the case. Now, where I'm very interested is how that's able to create markets for young African people. Because if you know as well as I do, that one of the predominant issues we face on the continent is youth unemployment. Sure. And a lot of reasons account for that. You could dissect that from the standpoint of the inadequacies in our educational system, ineffective policies by governments and things of the sort. But over the long haul, what I'm interested in is entrepreneurship and innovation. And one could make a compelling case for that, but at the end of the day, I think it's important for us to look at are youth are they able to sell their produce on the African market? So I think one of the things that it will help us as Africans do is create markets for goods and services for young people who I think that they'll be able to access markets beyond the confines of their own countries, so that over the long pull, we're able to create incentives for young people to go into entrepreneurship and not be overly dependent on if their produce actually cross the boundaries of Africa, go to Europe or the United States. So that's how I think that over the long pull it'll help. Now, in order for that to happen, I think this is a very, very important treaty without a doubt, but we need to also consider some of the inadequacies in that. I mean, you have markets that are bigger, that are more developed, like South Africa. Now, the argument is that over the long pull, it'll help the manufacturing sector. But one of the things we want to avoid is a kind of neoliberalism. So we're not having countries that are far more developed exporting their produce to countries that aren't. So I think over the long pull, those deficiencies and difficulties need to be addressed for us to be able to fully take advantage of this treaty. But over the long pull, I want to see the degree to which it'll play a pivotal role in equipping many of the young people in our continent to be able to think about coming up with solutions to many of the social and environmental issues we have, because we have a market that can help them sell their produce and be able to generate revenue.
Okay, thank you very much, Mark. Dorcas, we are talking about how the youth can actually benefit from this. Actually, the free trade agreement has taken away some of the bottlenecks we had in trade, and now we're going to have free movement of people, goods, and services. So, how do the youth take advantage of this?
Okay, thank you once again. Let me come out from the organization that I'm representing. That's the Youth Without Borders.
Okay.
As the name goes, Youth Without Borders.
Sure.
So that means, first of all, we have a lot of youth who are ready to do something for themselves. But most of the times, there are a lot of limitations. So that's where our organization comes in to empower, to give them opportunity. Already, there are a lot of youth from organizations that are having that experience in other African countries. So it's happening, but there are challenges. Okay. So this is a step in the right direction in addressing this thing, because the African Continental Free Trade will set the pace for a one African market. Okay. Where if I'm an entrepreneur here in Ghana and probably my resources are not pulling enough, and I can become more powerful when I collaborate with another African person from Nigeria. Nigeria is a large market. Yeah. So that is where the positive correlation comes. Okay. So over here, we are looking at resources that are underutilized, that can be overutilized because of this platform. So there are a lot of opportunities though, but I think this is a right step in the direction that will push the youth to expand, even if you don't have potentials. And probably if you don't have potentials, or you have potentials, but probably the industry that you are is not seeing it, you can utilize it in another African setting. Because looking at the problems and challenges in Africa, they are almost the same. The agricultural sector, the fall armyworm, is in Ghana. You go to Zambia, it's there. So currently, if I'm working on a solution that is addressing this, and I have this platform, you can imagine how I will scale this through. So it's a great opportunity. I think it will help the youth stand on their feet and then work out their potentials, because it's an opportunity, but if you don't prepare, you can't fit into the market. The way the opportunity is, if you don't prepare, you don't get the right resources, the right knowledge, the right expertise, even the small one you can't manage. So how do you collaborate and work with people to achieve greater results? So that's one of the challenges. That is an opportunity, good, but we need to prepare as youth to be able to embrace this opportunity that is coming our way.
Okay, thank you, Douglas. Carl, do you see any niche in this particular agreement that the youth can explore to their advantage?
Yes, before I get there, I just want to throw in some statistics there. According to the Mo Ibrahim Foundation 2019 report, young people between the ages of 15 and 25, about 60% of the African population. And our population as we speak now is about 1.2 billion, and it is being estimated by ILO and the UN and other organizations that by 2030, the African population is going to be somewhere around 1.6 billion. It tells you that, and if you look at our GDP growth, is currently hovering somewhere below 1%, and it has been estimated that the coming in of this agreement will see it going to 1% and employment growth rising by 1.2%. That tells you that there is a lot of work to be done to be able to have the young people in this country or this continent actually getting fully employed and be able to play their part in the socio-economic development of the continent. And I believe that the agreement comes with a lot of advantages. But before young people will be able to assess or take advantage of those opportunities, Mark has already spoken about entrepreneurship and innovations. I also believe that we need to, when we are looking at young people, we need to classify them into 3 segments. Those without education, or those who are not educated, or those without the skills, those who are educated or newly educated, or who have just completed universities or colleges or technical universities or technical schools, and those who are already in the job market, or those who are already in the labor, those who are already working. For those that are not educated, there is the need to train them to have the technical skills, to have the vocational skills, to be able to take advantage of the opportunities that will come, because the AFTCA is going to open the whole Africa up. There's going to be a lot of opportunity. Even FDI, of foreign direct investment, is going to increase. How do we take advantage of it? Industries, the manufacturing sector is going to benefit a lot. And you know, in the manufacturing sector, it's not only just the knowledge you need the skills, the practical ones by that standard, to be able to function there. How do we ensure that our young people who are not educated or who do not have the opportunity to go to university or colleges have that kind of technical skills to be able to function there? Then we look at those who graduate from school newly. How do we fit them into the system? We need to ensure there is the need for a bridge between academia and industry, so that at the end of the day, our young people who just complete university will be employable. Because when you channel the graduates out there and you cannot provide them jobs, at the end of the day, I mean, it amounts to nothing. But here lies the case that this trade agreement is coming to open up the African economy or the African market. And there are a lot of jobs and opportunities that are going to be opened. So young people who complete the university must be able to take advantage of this. They also look at those who are already in the system. How do we build their capacity? How do we train them on the job training? There are some skills that they may lack, and some opportunities that may come. We have to retrain them. So I believe these are some of the things that we need to look at. And we are in a system where digitization, because the African trade, the trade agreement is going to boost that kind of digitization is going to happen, where a lot of the sectors are going to be connected by IT, design things. So we need young people who have skills in these areas, because at the end of the day, if we don't take advantage of this, at the end of the day, we cannot sit here 30, 40, 50 years and blaming anybody. And then there is also the need, and Doc has talked about it briefly, there's also the need to network and partner as young people with others from other side of the country, of the continent. For example, I am here in Ghana. How do I connect with somebody in Egypt? So that at the end of the day, our ideas are brought together. We harmonize our ideas, and at the end of the day, we are able to implement business initiatives that inure to the ultimate benefit of ourselves, the ultimate benefit of our individual countries, and the ultimate benefit of the continent. So I believe that young people also need to network and connect and partner, collaborate with others from other parts of the continent to be able to benefit so much from this trade agreement.
Thank you very much, Carl. We will go for a quick break. When we come, we'll be talking about the entrepreneurship aspect, how we can improve on entrepreneurship, considering the opportunity that has been presented to us. If you are watching us from home, there's Agenda 2063. Remember, you can follow us on our social media handles, on Facebook, Association of African Universities, on Twitter, AAUTV _. You can follow us also on YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can enjoy this. Also, on your Diggy box, you can also find AAUTV. Okay, stay with us.
This not only leads to innovative solutions for context-specific challenges, it also powers growth and facilitates greater participation in the global economy. This new model of partnership will require a shift in global development and cooperation practice.
Carnegie Mellon University has already opened its campus for a master's degree program in information technology in East Africa. At Carnegie Mellon Rwanda, you learn. At Carnegie Mellon Rwanda, you innovate. At Carnegie Mellon Rwanda, you make a difference. At Carnegie Mellon Rwanda, you learn, innovate, and make a difference.
Welcome back. This is Agenda 2063. Before we left for the break, we were talking about opportunities that has been presented with the AFCFTA. And I have Carl here, I have Dorcas, I have Mark. They've already given us a lot of insight into the discussion. Yeah. So we will continue. I'll start with you, Dorcas. Okay. You are from the Youth Without Borders. Now, the AFCFTA has opened the borders. So actually, it's not just a name, it's like in full effect, in full force. So the borders have been opened. Already we have a problem of unemployment on the continent, and then we've always been talking about how do we improve on entrepreneurship to reduce unemployment. Now, an opportunity has been presented. How does this opportunity help us improve on entrepreneurship? How do we entrepreneurs take advantage of this?
Okay. So, can I share my personal experience?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, I'm an entrepreneur in the agricultural sector. Okay. We are a team of 4 Ghanaians, and we are working on, we are trying to solve a national concern that has to do with pests in the agricultural sector. Okay. So we realized that our solution is not just a Ghanaian solution. In fact, we had an encounter with someone who knew about the AFTC, the African Continental Trade. So he was like, but have people thought beyond other African countries? In fact, the idea never came. Okay. So I think we followed up on an article that the problem we are solving is a challenge in another country, Zambia, and they are trying to solve it with a lesser technology. The technology we were bringing was an advanced one, an automated pest monitoring system that will monitor this pest real time, give you early detection of the fall armyworm, and then you act. Okay. So apparently, the Ghanaian team was looking out for something like that, that the Zambians they already have the device. So Ghanaians are looking for that device that Zambians are using. And we are here in Ghana with an advanced one. Okay. So when we brought out the technology, they were like, wow, do you know what? When this goes through, we'll link you up with the other African countries. Okay. So your device is not just going to sell here, it's going to Zambia, other countries that are facing the same challenge that you're addressing. So this is how free and open the market is. So what I can say is, as entrepreneurs, the opportunities are there, but as I said, how well prepared are we? How advanced are we? If it's a Ghanaian problem and you are solving it, open up to other African countries. So this one is an indication that we have to reason beyond. Okay. If you reason beyond, you do big things. So if I have a solution and I think it will help Ghana, let me see what other African countries are facing. So that's where then, as an entrepreneur, you are being pushed to the limit to do exploits. Probably if you were performing less substandards, this is an opportunity for you to embrace and expand your knowledge, as Carl said, your expertise. If you need to go through training to be able to meet the standards. So it's the right step in the direction, and then it will help entrepreneurs to be able to collaborate well, partner well, and then boost our income. Because if this goes through all the other African countries, you can imagine the amount of wealth you'd have been making. And at this point, you're even overwhelmed. The capacity, will we be able to handle this? That's the problem. So this is a step in the good direction, but if you are not careful, you can have some shocks if you are not well prepared. So you without borders, what we can be doing as it stands now is with the segments. If you belong to the youth who haven't acquired the education, if you've acquired the education, if you are in the working space, probably a lot of trainings and then sensitization, and then I think what we should be doing more is to really, I'm sure they have some codes. So we have to look what goes into it, step by step. What is in it for this category of people? How do we address it? Then we can take it from there. Yes, so that's what I can say about my personal experience.
Dorcas is saying we should go beyond the borders and also look for opportunities out there. Carl, is there anything you want to add to what Dorcas
Yes,
said?
to continue from where she just ended, I believe that there is the need for we young people in the continent, first of all, to identify challenges in our immediate communities or our local communities, and also reason up to see how we could change those challenges. I mean, how we could model business solutions to deal with those challenges. Then, you know, Africa is a homogeneous continent. I mean, what I mean by saying homogeneous is that when you go to my community right now, the challenges there is just the same as any rural community in Nigeria or Cote d'Ivoire, any part of the continent. So, and after identifying and coming up with business solutions, then there is then need for partnership to be able to, and that is why there is the need to take advantage of IT, advantage of social media, and make good use of all the social media platforms that we have: Twitter, Instagram, WhatsApp, and LinkedIn. Take advantage of it, connect positively and productively with people from other parts of the continent, just as she said, to be able to scale up our ideas, scale up our innovative approaches to solving problems of society. And also there is also that need for us to, just as I said, partner more, read more about those people from the continent who have actually made it. People like Dangote, for example. You know, when you come to this continent, we have vast opportunity, vast land space. How do we, as young people, take advantage of those opportunities? Agriculture is a sector that we young people must consider, because the land is there, we have water, we have most of the natural resources that we need to be able to succeed in agriculture is there. How do we take advantage of that? How do I go to my community and at the end of the day start something small from my community, link up with a friend in Nigeria, link up with a friend in maybe South Africa or Morocco, and be able to scale it up. So that is why there is the need for we young people to start from something locally. It doesn't necessarily mean maybe probably you should go full haul into maybe entrepreneurship. You could be an entrepreneur, or maybe you could be somebody you could be a professional working somewhere, and at the same time doing something sideline, which will maybe employ a lot of people. Because mind you, the data is scary. When you read the data about unemployment in Africa, is scary, because as we speak, as at 2012, unemployment in North Africa alone was around 23. Youth unemployment in North Africa was around 23.2%, according to the International Labour Organization. That is North Africa. When you come to Sub-Saharan Africa, it's even worse. So there is that need for us to deal with it by being innovative and entrepreneurial in our approach, and also doing something beyond our normal works to be able to get one or two people into employment.
Thank you very much, Carl. Let me get to you, Mark. You know, if we've ever needed the youth and entrepreneurs entrepreneurs to be innovative, to be critical thinkers, to be global thinkers. This is the time. How do we take advantage of this?
Yeah, without a doubt. I think in regards to, first of all, some of the comments that you guys have made about the importance of entrepreneurship, I guess it goes without saying, because in most of the models that we've applied to development on the African continent over the last couple of centuries have been excessively predicated upon aid. And there's been arguments from very renowned scholars, Donbisa Moyo in her book, Dead Aid, or you have William Easterly, What the White Man's Burden, and more recently, Darren Asimoglu, Why Nations Fail. I think many of them have challenged the aid approach as pretty much the approach that hasn't worked for us. That being the case, I think it's fair to say that to some extent they've helped us, handheld us, solve one or two issues on the African continent. But I think if we're going to develop as a continent, it behooves us to begin to think about sort of top down. How do we as Africans begin to think deeply about many of the issues that we face on the African continent? I think you also touched upon it. And I think innovation is very central to that, without a doubt. But I don't think we should get ahead of ourselves, because we're very good at coming up with a lot of these treaties. I think over the years we've had a lot of things of the sort. Now, I want to believe that this time around we're going to get it right, and it's just not just a bunch of us coming together and there's so much hoopla around it, so much excitement around it, and over the long pole we don't take advantage of it. Now, in order for this to happen, first of all, I think it's important for us to tease out many of the things we're going to need to do first. It's important for us to know that there is a bit of disequilibrium in our educational systems. If you were to come to Ghana, the level of education you would receive over here could be quite different than you'd have in Nigeria, where you have an excessive amount of strikes and things of the sort. You understand? So you have an influx of Nigerians coming to Ghana to study. That being the case, also you have language differences. You have Francophone Africa, Anglophone Africa, North Africans. So there are a lot of issues that we need to first of all address in order to make sure that we're able to fully take advantage of this. One of the things we also need to know is that according to the International Energy Agency, about 625 million of Africans don't have access to electricity. Electricity is very, very central. Energy, for that matter, is very central to the development of industries, manufacturing, all of that. My fear is not for the countries that are more developed to become sort of powerhouses that are exporting their produce to others. So I think it's important for us to address all of this. Now, back to your question about innovation. I think innovation is very central to sort of freeing Africa from the quagmire of underdevelopment, which for far too long has been an issue in many parts of the continent. Now, it's important for our educational system, you know as well as I do, which places a bit of too much of a premium on rote memorization. If you did go to school here, you know as well as I do that a lot of times you just memorize a lot of things and regurgitate in examinations. So if you had an excessively good memory, then you were a good student. So I think it behooves us to begin to look at many of the components of our educational system that completely prevents us or precludes a lot of young Africans from being innovative. And so how do we begin to, like Harvard, for instance, has an innovation lab that allows students with ideas to go and be handheld. I'm thinking we could even incorporate innovation and entrepreneurship education into our educational curriculum. So from a young age, secondary school, people begin to think about, look, if you left everything to the device of government, it's a myth, without a doubt. I think if you grow up here, it's very easy to get lost in the fact that you go to school, you study hard, you get your degree, only to graduate and realize that the job that you were hoping for didn't exist. And there are so many of our people that are struggling, that are despondent. And I think this is pathetic, So I think it's important for us to look at our educational system, come up with policies, educational policies that will make changes to them so that we can begin to encourage many of our young people to think very deeply, to be very alert to some of the issues that we have. Like if you were driving around and there was trash, maybe you could think, I would be the one to solve that. If someone was peeing along the street, maybe you could come up with an app to solve that. So, but I think we've been trained to think very deeply about the fact that we're going to wait for government. Because government is the biggest employer in most African countries. It's only in this part of the world that happens. In the Western world, government pretty much exists to create an enabling environment for the private sector to flourish. And who is in the private sector? Thinkers, innovators, people who come up with ideas to solve many of the issues we have. So I think it's important for us to begin to think about, as a continent, as countries, as the world, how we can incorporate a lot of these things into our curriculum in our universities, in our secondary schools, so that our young people can be kind of, I think there's a need for us to divorce them from that marriage to that idea that we're going to graduate and we're going to find a job. Because the job doesn't exist. Because if you look at it, the amount of people that graduate and the jobs that are created aren't the same. There's it far outweighs the jobs, the people far outweigh the jobs that are created. So I think it's important for us to begin to think about many of these things that will help us be more lucidly able to tease apart many of the components, because I think it's an ecosystem. If we get too carried away, then we might fall into the same trap that over the years we've done, and I don't want that to happen.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much on that, Mark. Actually, looking at this whole issue of the free trade agreement and the whole issue of unemployment on the continent, I want you gentlemen to, each one of you, just throw out an advice, out there to the youth, to entrepreneurs, what they can get out of this, just one. So you just throw it out there to the youth, so you can look into the camera and then just throw it out. I'll start from you, Carl.
Yes, so my advice to young people is to take advantage of this agreement, get more innovative and think more entrepreneurial, and take business initiative that you know to the ultimate benefit for themselves, community, their country, and the continent.
Okay, Douglas?
Okay. My advice to the youth is nothing good comes easy. How prepared is the youth? It's an opportunity. If you're a youth and you don't have a passport, okay, well, as one of the frameworks, we know there's going to be an African passport. So for all these things. So for now that it's on hold and it hasn't come to realization, there are some of the youth without passports.
Okay.
So how do you trade?
Okay.
So the preparation counts. How well are we prepared? You don't have to be, when it comes to entrepreneurship and innovation, you don't have to get a formal education before you can do something. A lot of great guys out there haven't gone through the system, but they have the ideas and other people are helping them materialize it. So you don't have to look at where you are to get what you want. Organizations like Youth Without Borders are there. If you haven't registered your organization, because you don't have the knowledge on how to put systems in place, we are there to support you. So just be prepared and you can go.
Yeah, Lucas says we should get a passport. So, Mark?
Yeah, I think what I would like the youth out there to know is that all of us together, collectively, can make a difference. And I think many of the issues we face, social, environmental, economic, aren't the burdens of one man or woman alone, but some are called to bear a greater share of it. And that's you, that's me, that's Carl, that's Dorcas, that's all of us. So I think, and as opposed to being excessively hopeless and believing that nothing can be done, I want the youth out there to begin to reclaim that self-belief, that self-confidence, that together, if we were more alert to many of the issues that happen in our communities, that if we begin to think about how I as an individual can play a role and not leave everything to the device of government, together we can lift Africa from the quagmire of poverty and underdevelopment, which for far too long has been a bane.
Okay, so lifting Africa out of poverty, that has already been a bane on us. Thank you very much, Mark. I will let you, Carl, throw out your final words as we sign off this particular discussion.
Yes, so I want to inform my other youth out there that the doors of Youth Without Borders is open. We are a Pan-African youth group that believes so much in the development of the capacity of the African youth. We believe that our potentials have no limit, our capabilities have no limit, and when we come together as young people, we can do many things to change the circumstances of our people, and the socio-economic development of Africa that we've been dreaming of over years will be achieved. So I would just want to inform them out there, whether it doesn't matter where they are on the continent, they should join us so that together we change the narratives of Africa.
Okay, because the agriculture
Yeah.
What are your final words?
My final words. As I said, the preparation is very key. Because as it stands now, we are in a shock. Like, you have to be, the opportunities are there, but you have to be able to put things in place to get it done.
Okay.
So my final words also go to the point that in as much as this is one of them, the trade, the one market, one African market is there. There should be other things. I can't wait for the African passports. You know, there should be some of the things that will make this trade flexible.
You love passports?
No, no, it's one of them. It's one of them. Like the African sky. You should be able to. You shouldn't. The currency, the transport.
Yeah.
Like there should be certain things in place.
Like young people should be able to take advantage of the trade agreement.
Of the trade.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Dorcas. Mark?
Well, I want to believe that Africa's solutions would lie in the hands of Africans. You, myself, and all of us. And I think all of us need to be revolutionaries of sorts, change agents who believe that we have to join the bandwagon. That being the case, I don't want to preclude the role of government. I think it's important for the enabling environment to be set forth for young people, because in as much as I believe that we should have the self-efficacy to do that, we won't be able to do that if we don't have the fertile ground to do that. So I want governments to also play their role in creating the infrastructure, the regulations and all of that are very central to helping many of the young people on the continent find solutions to many of the problems we have, so that together we can create a successful and prosperous and progressive Africa.
All right, thank you very much, Mark. Lady and gentlemen, thank you for joining us on Agenda 2063. It was an interesting discussion with you. We've had a lot of insights from you, and I'm sure the youth out there are listening to you, and they're going to take your words, and together we can develop as a continent. If you're also watching us from the house, remember, now if you're a youth and you are an entrepreneur, remember you are now without borders with this new agreement. So take opportunity, take the advantage, and then move beyond your border. Don't stay in Nigeria and then think you can only trade in Nigeria. Come to Ghana, go to South Africa, the market is open. This was Agenda 2063. I was your host for today, Schenineda Kwaku Ankomah. Thanks for watching.